the opposite of live is the word evil? Did you ever think about that? That Live, the mirrored version of that word is evil. Evil. Interesting that, there's things that we perhaps take for granted or that we see on a regular basis that we just assume is perhaps some other meaning or maybe to hold no meaning at all. And yet there are interesting synchronicities or coincidences when it comes to certain things that we see. Now, first of all, I recorded an audio 2 days ago. And in that audio, the microphone, amazingly enough, although I remained still and didn't move, the microphone actually cut my voice out for considerable amounts of the audios that I had done. So I apologize for that. And if that does happen again, to me, this is just an example of the manipulation that reality has upon me and upon you and a lot of other different things. So, interestingly enough, yesterday I decided to do a podcast on my Rumble channel. And on there, I wanted to use their studio. And on my phone, when I log into studio on my phone, although I can log into my Rumble app, I'm unable to log into the studio app in order to do live streams. Once again, showing me that there's another layer of manipulation that's been casted on my phone because amazingly enough, I was actually able to log in on another device onto the studio. Everything worked as expected, and I did my first, let's hear the claps. I did my first on camera podcast. And although it only lasted 11 minutes, and you can find it on Rumble, actually, I'm going to link it in the bottom of the video there because on that podcast, I actually announced that perhaps I will migrate over to a platform that perhaps supports me to a higher degree. And while that isn't a threat, that's actually just, an idea of what I could do, assuming that YouTube continues messing around with showing impressions and, all the fake subscribers that I've had. And I exposed that several times, being sold fake subscribers by YouTube ads. I've talked about that often, and it's essentially damaged the reach of my channel. And so, once again, another example of manipulation. And yet, all of these things that I'm put through, all of these challenges, just like I explained in my previous podcast where I talked about how Ash Ketchum on Pokemon, he's always having to battle Team Rocket on a daily or, in this case, an episodic basis. Every episode, Team Rocket appears. Ash has to, in some way, battle Team Rocket, therefore getting considerably stronger. Ash has a lot of gratitude for how effective and how powerful that Ash has become because of their constant interference. And yet they don't really interfere. Just as all of you who are up against me, opposing me, restricting me, suppressing me, doing everything and anything that you think that you can do in order to perhaps thwart my progress forward, my mission to simply be, you guys are all falling in vain because let me do this properly. Welcome to Sean's Thoughts. How are you doing? I trust that you are doing amazing as I'm doing right now. I apologize, the sun is in my eyes, and yet I don't care. I have come to fully realize, understand, and actually see that there are many forces outside of us that affect us, and they essentially try to limit our ability. I believe that we'll call it the homeless epidemic that's engaged upon the world right now is more a result of those people that were not willing to comply with all of what was happening in the world. Whether it was being a part of a military that went around the world hurting other Homo sapiens or, dealing with the traumas of actually participating in something like that, or people who weren't willing to continue paying taxes to a government which was funding and supporting wars in foreign countries that we had no reason to even be a part of. And so, you know, there's a lot of reasons why people chose homelessness and struggle over actually, you know, complying. And more as I look at the world around me, I see amazing, beautiful people waking up and simply saying, no, no more. We're done. And that's what this is. That's what this next evolution of my podcast is. See, in the past, I chose to showcase beautiful nature scenes, and I did that for two reasons. One, I did that because I felt that rather than seeing me like this, that people would rather see beautiful nature because honestly, that's what I would like to do. Often when I listen to people's audios, I listen to them without pictures. And yet, in this world of YouTube, of course, we want to have pictures. So I showcased all of the beautiful nature. And I honestly felt more impacted by those videos myself because often I would turn them into moving portraits or I would turn them into do no thing experiences or full meditation videos, which I highly recommend. I'm going to pop up a meditation video right here, right now. And I highly encourage you to click on that. It'll come up sometime around now and to meditate for a good 11.1 minutes and then come back to this audio. Or even if you choose not to do that, at the end of it, go into a meditative state, whether it's with one of my videos or it's just, listening to some om meditation and truly find that inner voice that is out there right now trying to communicate with all of us. See, over the course of my last, I guess, 3 years, I've come to heal a considerable amount of trauma within my own person. And that's essentially what my channel is all about. It's about healing because healing is the key to breaking free of this thing we call the matrix. And yeah, that's what I truly wish to share is the experiences that I've had. And part of those experiences are the somewhat obvious misrepresentation or complete deception of many people that live around me that I have talked to personally. And it's not just deception that they are purposely involved in, it's also outside influences that affect those people around me as well. I've often talked about this book called The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. And this book is a phenomenal book that I highly recommend everyone pick up and read because it truly explains that inner chatter voice, that chatterbox within our head that's convincing us to do or say something that pops thoughts into our minds that aren't ours. If you're sitting there and you're having a wonderful time, and then suddenly a thought of fear pops into your mind, recognize that that isn't you. That's that little chatterbox or that little demonic spirit or entity or demon, whatever word you would choose to cast it as. It's something that's external of you. See, we've been told so much and so often that a lot of the things that we think, that we feel, that we see, that they aren't real. And yet many of these things are real. Simply our perception has been limited. See, if you look at the electromagnetic scale of energy that you can find in any textbook, you will see that there is a considerable amount of energy. And keeping in mind, everything is energy. They have proved that in science. The trees, the me, the microphone, the air, the sun, everything. It's all composed of energy. And energy is essentially photons, light. And so everything is, in a sense, photonic. Funny enough, now I'm just getting a realization that I once called or asked about the what photonic life was. Once again, maybe I'll pop that into the description, or not the description, but up above on the right-hand side. But photonic life. And anyways, so that everything is energy. And we can hold on to negative energy, but going back to what I was saying about the electromagnetic spectrum of life or of energy is that the visible spectrum, and the visible spectrum means the part of light that we can actually physically see with our eyes is like this thin versus the scale is like huge. So what I'm saying here is there is a ton of things that are outside of our visible spectrum, things that we can't see. And whether you call those demons or unicorns or Avalon or, you call it heaven or hell or the lower astral or whatever it is you'd like to call it, the point being is there's many things that we are unable to see, including many beings that we're unable to see. Now, on occasion, we will have the opportunity to see these beings, for instance, the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot. Yeah, some people call it Bigfoot, some people call it Sasquatch. This being is simply outside in its natural state. It's outside of our ability to see it. And when it slows down or perhaps falls into an angry state because man is out there burning a tree or disturbing the forest and they're caretakers of the forest, when that happens, they lower their vibration, perhaps through anger. And anger for what the Homo sapiens or what the humans are doing, and they fall into a state that they're perhaps captured on camera. And that's a great example of things that exist that we are unable to see. So many of that which happens in our world is affected or perhaps even highly influenced, or maybe it's just a direct they're doing that. Like I've often felt like little pinpricks or little pushes on as if I was being bit by something, for example, and I look down and there's absolutely nothing there, but yet sometimes I actually have a bug bite and there was no bug bite and there was nothing fly away. So anyways, my point being is there's a large part of the world that we cannot see. And that's the part of the world that affects us. And then there are other parts of the world that are there that we could see that we simply don't choose to see for whatever reason it is, whether it's fear or programming or, you know, we would just rather put our heads in the sand, hope that everything goes away because perhaps in the past when we actually question things, something bad happened and therefore we refuse to question. But I'm essentially standing up right now in front of this camera suggesting, maybe even asking or encouraging is probably the better word because encouraging means I'm empowering those who listen to what I have to say with courage. That's what encouraging means, to share or support through courage. And I'm encouraging everyone and anyone who listens to this, first of all, to share everything that I have on my channel. My channel is here for the world. It's here for every country, every color, every race, every species, and that includes Homo sapiens, perhaps humans that choose to maybe go a different direction. It includes all of those beings and entities that I have yet to, or perhaps I have seen in an alternative reality or a different timeline. It includes anyone and everyone. I, interestingly enough, came across this conversation or interview that Alobar had with several different demonic entities, one of them being the Demiurge, and another one being Yahweh, and another one being the Archons. And essentially, he had all these conversations with all of these beings who claim that they exist, and yet they're just out of our phase of being able to see it. That Alabar himself, he actually goes into battles with them, doing things such as what they saw on the movie Men That Stare at Goats. And it's a technique where you're able to essentially move your consciousness into other spaces and be able to see. And so, anyways, I'm not necessarily saying that any of that's real because I have yet to actually physically see it and remember it with my own personal eyes. And yet I have a feeling still that there are many different things that are real, that are, in fact, beings with consciousness that are affecting me on a daily basis, and perhaps you as well. And of course, all of this could simply be a manifestation of my own belief. See, I listen to a lot of videos from various sources, from the Global Intelligence Agency report to Carrie Kay's videos to different tarot readers, one of them being Crystal, another one being Freya. And I read books such as Paul Seleg. He has 12 channeled texts, and other books such as The Medical Medium and Greg Braden. I've also listened and read a lot of the information that came from Kevin Trudeau, and he has definitely created a vast amount of somewhat positive information. And although I feel that it's truly based on how the matrix used to be manipulated based on how it once was, there is a lot of amazing information that he has imparted on me through his training and such. Self confidence being one of the most important things, self belief, because without self confidence, what happened to me yesterday can happen to anyone. And what happened was, after recording the video on Rumble, I essentially went across and I watched it, and I noticed that I was stuck in the video. And yet, when I think to myself, I'm not stuttering. That's not what I perceive. And so I recognized, and I'm fully aware of, that video can be altered on the fly. Means I can say something, and even though you're sitting here watching it, they can seamlessly change out words, change out perspectives, because our ability to be controlled by those forces that we are unaware of in most cases, that can affect how we think about ourselves, how we see others, what we hear, what we say. I often wonder, when I've shared the videos of Carrie and Kim and Kevin and whoever it is, I often wonder whether or not the people that I'm sharing it with are actually getting what I shared, like the videos that I saw. And people have come across and told me, oh, I don't like the accent. Oh, I don't like it that it's a woman, or I don't like it because I can't see that person on the camera. And, they've had several different excuses, or just blatantly saying, oh, I don't like it. I don't believe that person. And yet they may or may not have even listened to that person in its totality, or listened to the full audio, which is something I highly encourage you to do. Something that resonates with you, if you start to feel if you start to feel some sort of resistance come up into you, or you start noticing distractions amassing around you, whatever it is, phone calls, this or that, be aware that when you're getting to that point of awakening, when you're getting to that aha moment, a lot of times those things that I'm talking about, they will therefore create distractions. I remember I was doing this audio recently, and I was sitting by the Fraser River, and I was starting to talk about a lot more flammable topics. And interestingly enough, there was a three-car crash in behind me on the highway. And these three cars essentially hit each other, but yet a dump truck missed all three of the cars, but yet it still pulled over to the side of the road. And it was rather a large crash in behind me while I was doing the audio, which of course distracted me from even completing that audio. I was very grateful that that dump truck missed everyone. You know, now that I think about it, you never know. The dump truck could have flown off the highway, but nonetheless, it didn't. And everyone was safe. They were shaken, but they were safe. And how I saw that, and one day I will go back and I'll look at the footage, because I believe that everything in our reality is recorded, because, we're in a matrix or in a simulation of sorts. But yet there are distractions that come up. Or I'll start recording an audio and people will start using their leaf blowers to blow the cherry blossoms. Can you believe that? That they're actually out there on the sidewalks using gasoline leaf blowers to clear the cherry blossoms from the sidewalk. There's so many different oddities that I find extremely hilarious, because they showcase a direct impact or reflection, or perhaps an attempt to thwart what I'm saying and what I'm doing. Even now, I come to this beautiful habitat of, well, there's probably a few homeless people that do live down here. And anyways, I'm down here with these crows and birds, and I'm sitting on this stump, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm here because I would prefer there to be less opportunity for distraction. And, the only real way that they can distract is to cut off the feed or, mute my mic. And they've done that before too. And yet I'm here sharing with you who I am, what I am. And, I haven't been fearful of putting my image on the camera. I've sometimes seen myself, or if you noticed in some of my videos, I've stepped into the frame for my do no thing pictures. And so therefore I'm not shy of being on camera. I've also stood on the stage. I went to acting school. I've done a couple of student movies. I've done a lot of theatrical performances where I was on the stage. I've directed plays, I've produced them, I've written them. I've done a lot of things that puts me in what you call the limelight. And so therefore it's not that I've ever been afraid or scared of being in the camera. What I believe, and the reason why I was guided to do it, is because there is things such as projections, and those projections don't necessarily just come from, you know, people or those beings that I said that are perhaps on a different visual spectrum. They come from other people in our lives. And so when people are staring at the image of me talking on a camera, they're going to essentially, or you're going to essentially share your energy and your projection. And if you have an issue with me, for example, you being able to see me, therefore gives there more of a connection between us. And if you have an issue with like jealousy or anger, perhaps you're seeing that I'm doing the things that you want to do. Like I know a lot of people in the world that would love to do what I have done for the last 3 years. And I'm grateful to God, and I'm thank you to my guides and my angels and to Source overall for allowing me to actually experience the journey that this podcast I'm going to share with you. I know that I'm supposed to actually share the experiences that I have experienced, how I got here, what I did to heal. Because as I said, this is all about healing. Yes, you can know what happens in the world. You can be aware of who did this to you and why this happened. And, we can all stand in the town square and we can watch all of those puppet politicians, alliteration, and we can watch them all be walked to the town square so they can face justice. And yet none of that really matters. It might feel good for the moment when, imagine back in the olden times, the knights and kings and all that stuff. And, they make up a story about a witch, or they make up a story about a knight who chose good over evil. And then they walk him into the town square. They call him a thief, and everyone believes him. And then everyone cheers for that person's departure from this plane. And yet, unknowingly, all of that town square people contributed to their own imperfections, we'll call it, to their own trials that would be forthcoming because they were wishing or they were cheering on evil, essentially, and they were ending life. And so we can want to do that. Yes, we can want to see all the people who were responsible for that island coming to, justice. And yet the only one who truly provides justice is God. And therefore our responsibility would be therefore to ourselves and our family. Because when we heal ourselves, we heal all of those people around us. How? Because we ripple our energy out, and therefore those people that are around us, that are in our lives, whether they're our loved ones, whether they're operatives, whether they're bystanders, whether they're, you know, overlaid avatars, they no longer are affected by any type of negativity that can come through us. And we, in a sense, because we've healed, because we've raised our frequency. See, to me, raising our frequency means that we are removing, we are the traumas that we've held on to. We are letting go. So, like a hot air balloon, we can start rising higher and higher. And it doesn't matter what the trauma is. Honestly, I understand that we've all went through different traumas and we all remember different traumas. Now, perhaps I've been blessed, for example, to have my memory tampered with on a nightly basis. And I truly do mean that because there are so many things I cannot remember or I have yet to remember. Cancel, cancel. I have yet to remember because I am remembering. And perhaps that's what the artificial construct or those operatives in my life, perhaps that's what they were contributing to and that they hoped would continue. And yet, with every moment forward and every time that I do one of these podcasts, this is probably my, I don't know, 200th or 250th recording of me talking, very similar to how I'm now. And yet, every time that I talk, I become more empowered, more bold. And, yeah, I'm in front of the camera right now and I'm here with my long hair. Actually, I'll teach you a little thing about the long hair part. I came across the understanding that having longer hair connects you stronger to God, the source of all things. And I'm uncertain whether or not that's true, but yet interestingly enough, in Romans 11:13 or something like that in the King James Bible, I was directed to by these reborn Christians who were walking on the street. When they saw me with my long hair, they stopped me on the streets and they explained to me and they showed me in the Bible, their Bible actually, that having long hair was what God didn't like. And interestingly enough, if you look into biblical text and beyond biblical text into other texts, such as, even the story to do with the house of David and all the Jewish stuff, or even anyways, you look into all that stuff, including Jesus, and they all had long hair. And yet now you have a Bible that on one hand tells you God thinks you should pay your taxes, which by the way are something called tidings. And they're just, changing over that as opposed to paying the church a percentage of the money that you made, you essentially paid the government. Like you chose one or over the other. There was a time where the Roman Empire was essentially, you can call it the church and the state all in one. And then with the invention of the Catholic Church and, making all that story about a monotheistical government and religion. Anyways, then it became taxes to the government. And so you have this book, this thing called the Bible, the King James Version. And on one hand, it's telling you, if you're a good person, you're going to pay your taxes. Oh, and by the way, you shouldn't have long hair because, God doesn't like it. And yet all of the biblical figures, they all had long hair. It creates a distortion right there. And one of the biggest businesses that's ongoing in my city right now are haircut places where they're shaving off all the people's hair. And the style of men's hair is to shave the side of the hair. And yet I was felt and guided to allow my hair to grow. So while I'm uncertain whether or not the information regarding long hair being a stronger connection to God, I chose to do that. And amazingly enough, it's been a great choice. I've saved hundreds of dollars over the last, well, probably $1,000 over the last 3 years, not having to worry about cutting my hair and just letting it grow out. And one of the benefits that I noticed that came across was that a lot of the gray that was in my hair when it was short started to go away. And I started to regrow the brown hair that was on my head and has been here for a very long time. And although there's a little bit of silver, perhaps I'm part of the that family on Game of Thrones with silver hair. Just joking, but you never know. Anyways, so that Bible had said to do the long to cut off the long hair. And it somehow gets me to wondering, like, why is that important? Why is that written in there? There's no real explanation. I'm sure when you were to ask, or you can go ask your um, whoever it is that leads your church and ask them if you're using the King James Bible, or maybe even any of the other Bibles that might say something similar, but ask them, why does that matter? And, I honestly think it has something to do with witches and with the women. And women have long hair. And, maybe that's even why this whole big push to get women to be more manly and cut their hair shorter. And, you see a lot more actresses and even cartoon characters of the feminine type that are having short hair. And perhaps that's this massive plan. I'm not sure. I'm not certain. Once again, my podcast isn't about telling people what I believe is true. It's about exploring the possibilities of what could be, because there are so many different possibilities right now of what could be. I have a whole series called I Foresee. I'm going to link it at the end of this video once this video uploads and probably publishes. And I encourage you, they're mostly short videos, mostly 10 minutes. But in the actual video themselves, there's only 3 to 5 minutes of talking. And I discuss all of these ideas and concepts and, things that I have seen in my imagination. And yes, my imagination is very, very flamboyant. It's very powerful. And, I see a lot of beautiful things, a lot of beautiful potentials, new ways that we could live on this planet, new ways that we could support ourselves, new ways that we could come together as a community, come together as a worldwide community. Like, remove the borders, for example. There's honestly no reason that, well, there is a reason when it comes to why they put the borders up and why they delineate who's on which side of the border and who's on the other side. That's the same way that they do the separation with all the religious people. The point is if we are the beings who we are, which are loving, compassionate, wonderful beings, we don't need borders. We don't need like separation. What we do need is unification and restoration. Those are the words and those are the concepts and ideas that are going to elevate us to a beautiful aspect of life. And everything that I've went through, as I have been talking about, has essentially been forging me. And forging is, you can imagine a blacksmith taking a piece of iron, and maybe I won't be iron in this case, taking a piece of titanium and basically taking that titanium into the fire, into a volcano's fire, because that honestly feels what it's been like at sometimes. It feels like I'm in the volcano's lava. And I have been that titanium, and I have been forged into something that is more passionate, more pronounced, bold, determined, because I'm sick and tired of seeing what I see out there. And I'm uncertain whether or not all of this stuff is even true. I really encourage someone, let me know what's actually happening. I believe a lot of my technology and, has been hacked and perhaps shadow banned and even overlaid. There is a great possibility that my channel, this video right now, goes out to 1 million people, and yet I'm unable to see the view count that is of that, and that only certain people are even allowed to leave comments showing me that there's a trickle of information or connection, and yet perhaps all of the other connections are being dismissed or discouraged or perhaps even just deleted. That is a very good case in point when I look at when I originally started this channel, and I talked about this yesterday on my Rumble Live exclusive. And I mentioned that when I originally started my YouTube channel, I was creating these beautiful videos called Illuminating Language. And in this video series, I was essentially taking words and illuminating them, which is something that I learned from my former mentor, Kevin Trudeau. And what he explained is that when we truly learn what a word means, we learn where the word comes from, we learn how to actually use that word, we know how to use it in sentences, and, you know, even in the synonyms and the antonyms of the word. So when we truly know that word, it's as if we are activated with that word. So I created a whole series, and we used words such as love and forgiveness and acceptance and wonder. There's a few other ones as well. And so I created this amazing channel where, or not channel, but podcast series where I was illuminating language. And I was activating words, not only for myself, but anyone who sat through the whole entire video. And those ones, same thing. They're meditative videos in a sense, and you can listen to them. You can activate things. You don't even necessarily have to do anything other than hear, other than actively listen with intent. Or perhaps even if you're busy, putting them on in the background and just listening inactively, like doing your daily job. You're at a cashier or you're in a factory even, and just putting that on and letting those audios play. They're rhythmic, they're in forged with harmony, they are balanced with intention and love. And anyways, when I created these videos, I thought as a way to share them with everyone and to continue creating more, I would advertise my channel on YouTube. This is before I had a podcast. And amazingly enough, my I4C series, as well as my illuminating language, when I put the video on an ad, there would be a ton of views. Although, honestly, I recognized after a while the average view time was only like under 10 seconds. On one of the videos, I had like 10,000 views, but yet the view time for them was only 10 seconds. And so I moved forward and I advertised several other videos, and every time that I advertised a video, it did exceptionally well based on what I was trying to do, which was get likes and get subscribers. And I got, or my channel got, over 14,000 subscribers. And interestingly enough, after they subscribed, they never viewed again. They never left comments. Of all those people that liked my video, that subscribed to my channel, and as I said, 14,000, nobody subscribed. I mean, sorry, nobody commented, leading me to start suspecting that there was more manipulation going on there. And when I talked to YouTube about it, they told me that they couldn't do anything about it, that subscriber lists were confidential even to me. Now, I do have access to some of my subscribers, those ones who choose to supposedly share their subscriptions with the general community, but yet that only accounts for 300 of my current 13,000 subscribers, because over that duration of 2 years that since I did that, the subscriber count has been falling 5 almost every day. There's like a normal drip off. The only time it was more than that was when I would perhaps release a video where there would be flammable topics that I was talking about. Sometimes then I would experience more. And yet I've come to realize, I don't know where I'm going all with all that, but I've come to realize that things are severely manipulated. And yet I still have the intention of even sharing those videos and perhaps even doing workshops where we activate more words, because to get to where I am right now, standing in front of my beautiful rainbow colored phone case and looking into the camera with intention, I've had to go through many different trials, many different challenges. I've had to stand up to those forces which I can't see, as well as those forces, even forces within my own family and friends and community that I could see. Things that seemed very odd and out of place, and yet I passionately and lovingly just moved forward, not recognizing that perhaps there was a far larger Truman world around me than I had ever imagined. And through this whole journey that I've been on, I've come to start seeing the world in a considerably different fashion. And that's in my next video or my videos to come. I'm going to share more of that. And I apologize, I didn't necessarily get to the full explanation of my title of this video, yet I feel whenever I talk about things, there's a reason. There's always a reason. There's a reason why you're here right now. There's a reason why I'm here right now. There's a reason why I'm in this exact place. Perhaps in the background, there's something that is watching me, or maybe all around me, these birds are witnessing what I'm saying and what I'm doing, or perhaps the positioning of the sun is somehow playing with the optics of the camera. Maybe I'm protected in the forest by all these conscious and beautiful trees. I believe that the world holds a lot more secrets, wonderful and not so wonderful, but both of them. I believe that there is a lot more to this world than we have been told over the last umpteen dozen lifetimes. And so I truly do feel this is the time, this is the moment, this is our opportunity And it's an opportunity because in order to do it, we have to grab for it. We have to step forward. We must take action. Waiting for a savior is the problem because that's the program that they essentially indoctrinated most of us with, to wait for someone else to take action, to step up. You know, when I joined a group called Action for Canada, we had met in a barn at nighttime during the 2020 situation. And there were a lot of people, and there was this man named Andy. And Andy had chosen to take on the leadership of Action for Canada. And he had told me several times that he wasn't really interested in being the leader, that he was only doing it because no one else was doing it. And that no one else was me. I was willing to support Andy and to encourage him and to bring him ideas and help him lead the group. But even at that time, I had no desire to be the leader, to make those leadership choices. I was happy to contribute, happy to participate, to bring my energy and my ripple of love into the situation, to support those other people. And many of them were Christians, to support them in their own experiences. I was willing to partake in different activities that they participated in. And yet, there was, interestingly enough, oftentimes there would be events that we would be planning, and then I would be sick the next day, and they would get into trouble. A couple times that was trouble with the police or trouble with, law enforcement overall. And yet I was absent for those events. And so, you know, as I said, there are things that happen in our life and reasons why we do and say and act the way we do. And sometimes there are those things that are outside of our perception that are for our benefit, not just the challenges, but the blessings, that these things happen to us. And while they can be perceived as, oh, I got sick and now I'm hurt, as being a bad thing, we can also see them as perhaps that was a saving grace. Perhaps that was something that was actually a blessing in disguise. Going back again to the Team Rocket and the Pikachu thing. Ash always says, "Oh, Team Rocket again?" And my son and I, while we're watching the show, we'd be like, "Oh, Team Rocket again. Like, when are you guys going to learn?" And yet, the interesting thing enough is because they don't learn, they keep opposing Ash, and Ash simply becomes stronger. And then he goes on to win all of the battles and the challenges and the trials. And he becomes one of the greatest Pokemon masters that the Pokemon world has ever seen. So much so that some of the Pokemon who are viewed as gods, or not god, but godlike, like very powerful, legendary, unique Pokemon such as Tapu Koko or Tapu Lele or the Black Rayquaza. He goes on to befriend and battle these legendary Pokemon because of his inner strength that has been forged through the experiences that he has been a part of. And that has been because of the actions of, you know, Lysandre or Giovanni's Team Rocket and, you know, Jesse and James and even the talking cat Meowth. He's had all of these beings that have essentially supported him from the other side. And so that's what I definitely see has happened to me as well. So thank you. Thank you to every single one of you who lied, for every single one of you who told me a fake story, who mixed in truth with deception, who essentially convinced me that I was, you know, not strong enough to share what I had to share. Because through this journey that I'm going to share with you, and I've already started doing this, I'm going to name names and, you know, share the details of these experiences because it's through truth and honesty that we move forward. It's through sharing our experiences. And that's why I'm often asking people or I'm encouraging you to comment in the comments with your own experiences because that is a great opportunity for self-reflection, but more importantly, for actually considering what did I just. So I encourage you in every video that you listen to, that you invest your time in, leave a comment, not just on mine, but anyone's. It's always those channels that pop off with large amount of inner reflections and comments and gratitude where the audience shows that they actually had takeaways. So you can write things like a simple thank you, a heart if you don't know the words to say, or perhaps the language isn't yours. You can leave your greatest takeaway, and that means what did you actually take or receive from the audio? You can argue, you can debate, you can conversate, you can even criticize, because honestly, I don't care. Because as Eminem said, it even if you're dissing, at least it lets me know I'm on your mind, and that's the important part. It's important that we unite like the Autobots, that we bring our spark forward, that we bring our own ideas, and discussion is of the utmost important. If you disagree with everything or anything that I say, let me know what you disagree with. And perhaps I can maybe give you something more in that, or maybe I'll learn something from you. Like the stories that I tell are stories. They're things that I've experienced. And that's really all that I can share is my experience. And my experience, as I said, could be manipulated. For instance, I'm constantly getting these videos from an YouTube channel called David Fraser, and he's essentially putting together these AI generated clips. I can tell that there's an AI involved, and they're bringing together all of the audio. And it's possible that he's an AI avatar as well, because I've also seen those. I've seen videos where this old man or this Korean man, they're standing there and their bodies aren't really moving much. And there is movement. And yet they tell these miraculously scripted stories about how the economy is going, or how the price of silver is going. And, interestingly enough, they both talked about how silver was going to go up, and then everyone bought into it, and then silver went down. They do the same thing with crypto, and they act as if they're news stories, and yet I can see the outcome of them after. Well, anyways, there's this channel by this channel, or this YouTube channel called David Fraser, and he puts together these videos about all of these different situations that are happening in Canada, from the housing market crashing to, mortgages. The banks are refusing to do mortgages, and there's a large amount of job loss, and 7-Elevens are closing, and Home Depot is laying off a lot of their workers, and Starbucks as well. And, he's depicting several amazing, and I say amazing because for me, for corporations such as Walmart, Home Depot, Amazon, I can just keep going. Even my beloved Starbucks, I would love to, and Tim Hortons, and all these, and Subway, I would love to see all of these major corporations like disappear overnight if I could, because I believe in the spirit of entrepreneurship. I believe that, and I'm seeing it around me. I've talked about it on a podcast recently. I'm witnessing all of these foreign immigrants who are coming to Canada, who are seeing the struggles, and yet they're looking at it as opportunity, and they're opening up gas stations, and they're opening up and the gas stations aren't gas stations that are mainstream gas stations, and they're opening up buttered chicken places, and they're ordering up Persian restaurants and Indian restaurants and coffee shops. And I really do want to share all this stuff with you. I simply, I'm looking for the opportune time to do it. And one of those times is going to be when I feel support coming into what I'm doing, as opposed to opposition. So my call for action today is go to my Patreon channel and support it, because I'm looking to turn all of that support into supporting all these other peoples, whether it's the homeless people, whether it's, communities, children, people who want to do other projects. Perhaps you have a smaller project, such as a creative center that you want to create. I have an idea for a creative center of my own. However, I'd be happy to work with people on projects. I want to create adventure camps and adventure programs, such as my 5-day adventure camp. I want to reconnect people with nature, reconnect myself with nature. I want to live in an Ewok's hut on the mount on a treetop and see that experience. There's so many things that I want to do, yet I know those same experiences other people want to do as well. So my call to action is go to Patreon. $1.11 is what I'm putting up. although I do have options for $11 and $11,000, but yet anything, even being free, you can join for free and simply go through my Patreon page and like and comment on all the photos and they're beautiful photos that I share on there. Read through all of my stuff and even share your comments on there. Or I also belong to a community called the United News Network, and the host of this amazing real news show, her name is Sunny Galt, and she's such a beautiful, beautiful woman with such a sunny disposition. And she reports on some of this stuff that's actually happening. And we have these things called, or these people called field messengers. And what a field messenger is a person just like you that's out there with their camera, and they have this app and they can record what's really going on. And UNN is a phenomenal community that has come together. And on the app, I often write a long posts, and I often also encourage people to comment, because commenting brings us out of the closet. It allows us to, voluntarily share and put ourselves in somewhat of a limelight, showing that we're supporting someone. But more importantly, we're taking that opportunity to self reflect, to perhaps examine, what did I just bring in? And so the reason why I even brought up the Fraser David stuff, is because I received that information, and it essentially augments what I think about and what I see, because what I see a lot of times on YouTube isn't reflected in my own personal reality. And, I theories that I'm going to share about why that is. But I encourage you to not only look around in the world for yourself, but, use your discernment when consuming information. And even with what I'm talking about right now, don't just assume that everything I'm saying is accurate or truth, because that would once again put you in a savior program, because I'm not here to save you and you're not here to save me. We're here to, as Carrie Kay said, we're here to walk each other home. We're here to stand side by side. For me, support is standing alongside each other, not standing in behind someone, pushing them to be what you think they should be. It's standing alongside of them and walking forward, stepping forward, taking that leap if it's called for. And if others people come with you, great. If they stay behind because they're not ready to move forward, great. Because even as you move forward, as you do whatever it is to make that perfect chocolate cake that you imagine is perfect, those people around you will essentially interact with your energy, your love, your support, your compassion. Every time that you think of that person in the state of love, you will therefore send them the energy. And perhaps that's the energy that actually gets them that one step further. And sometimes that one step further might actually be what they call a timeline leap. You might actually jump a timeline because perhaps, you know, you went to school and you learned advanced calculus, but then when you reincarnated back here, you forgot that you already knew advanced calculus. You end up getting to the state of grade 12 math, and then suddenly everything clicks into place. You remember that you, in your past lifetime or your past incarnation, that you learned advanced calculus, and then all of a sudden everything comes easy, and then it all starts to flow. Or you can imagine it like a water dam, that the dam has had so much water over years and years and years of that water pushing up against the dam, and little cracks that are unseen within the dam. And then all of a sudden, a tree floats down, hits the dam breaks, and the water pushes through. Just imagine it. Just imagine that there may be one thing, and maybe one thing for me to finally get people to come visit me on Patreon is me standing in front of a camera, authentically myself, asking, recommending. And there's a lot of reasons why I'm doing this. And I'm sure some of you viewers out there know my circumstances right now. And perhaps you have been watching this journey from outside of my visual perspective, whether it's, on the other side of a firewall where I'm unable to a true engagement with my channel, or maybe you're just walking around in a devil's may cry type of reality where, evil is overlaid on top of life and people engaging or interacting with me. And I'm unwilling to, or not unwilling to, but I'm unable to see, perhaps because I didn't put it out there. And yet now all my words are coming out of my mouth. They're coming to you. I hope the video doesn't have my head chopped off on it. I was kind of concerned with that. I was going to do a landscape so you could see all this beautiful, beautiful nature around me. And well, the camera forced me to put it back into this frame, and I did that, and it actually works out pretty well. So I'm going to leave it here right now. And I thank you for your time, your attention. I thank all the birds that have been chirping all of this time. And, assuming that the audio remained consistent, I'll thank YouTube for hosting this exceptional declaration of independence. Thank you so much. And yeah, I apologize if anyone did leave comments on this live stream because of the way that I'm standing at right now. I'm unable to see the actual screen of the camera. I prefer to actually have the camera in this. I don't know. I like the nature part of my videos, and I'm uncertain whether or not I'll always be on camera, but yet you let me know. You show me that me being on camera is better in the engagement and interactions, and maybe I'll feel that this is the way to go. I'll let you in on a little bit of information. That Rumble video that I did yesterday was only 11 minutes long, and I really didn't say anything other than declare that perhaps I'll move my podcast over to the Rumble platform because they appear to be supporting podcasters. And lo and behold, the view count on that video is 75. The engagement is over 2 hours of view time for a 10-minute video. And so already they're showing that there's more engagement over there. So I would prefer to actually do something far different than this, but yet I'm growing. And so I thank you so much for sharing your attention with me, to sharing your support, your love, your admiration, and overall, just for being you to get to this place of residence that we could meet at this moment of time, whenever this moment is. Maybe it'll be a year from now. Maybe 365 days from now, it'll be. Yet I have faith, trust, and belief that things are going to change a lot more drastically and a lot more quickly. And, the world that we viewed, that we thought that we knew, is going to move to the wayside as God has declared the war between good and evil to be over. And even if that's a narrative that I'm being sold, in my heart, I know nature is returning. And I know that God is nature. And therefore, the songs of the birds that are singing with such immense beauty, I wake up to them every day. And I'm always having when I open my windows, when I open my patio door, there's birds chirping, whether it's pouring rain or beautiful sunshine or gloomy, whatever it is. The birds are always happy, and there's more birds chirping, and their songs, supposedly, as some bird experts have said, the music has changed. They're chirping, they're more invigorated, they're more joyful. And so I know things are changing regardless of what narrative we're being sold, but what I'm going to share with you on this channel. So please subscribe, please comment, please like. I don't care about the ego part of that. I want to show others that it's safe to come out of their darkness. It's safe to be seen, to share, to experience, and to unite, because that's what we're doing. So thank you so much. As I said, I apologize I didn't get to any of the comments. I appreciate any and all of the attention that you spent on leaving the comments. I will definitely perhaps read through them later on a reviewing of this video, and then I'll get to them on a further podcast. So I thank you for your time, and I look forward to sharing more with you very soon. So much love.